This is a manual buttonhole demonstration. The first thing I would like for you to do is grab your manual for your sewing machine. The newer machines have this larger spiral book. The older machines up against the wall have this small spiral book. But please turn to the sewing buttonholes. The purpose of a buttonhole is to close a clothing garment, but buttonholes can also be decorative. And you can choose which buttonhole you want to do. We're going to do a simple regular buttonhole. And the first thing you are going to do is change your screen by hitting 0. This is the buttonhole that we are going to do today. And it says 10, that's the 10 spot, but it is the 0 on your machine. If you select that, it will change your screen to look like this. The first thing you see is the buttonhole number, and then you can see the buttonhole symbol blinking at you right now. And then you also see a 3, which is your presser foot, which means you need to change your presser foot. We will also load the bobbin differently, and we will also mark your pattern piece according to the pattern. This, what looks like a capitalized I, is actually the marking for a buttonhole. I've made mine extra long, but this would be marking the length of your buttonhole, and your X over here is for your actual button. Please mark your buttonhole, and it may be a little different than how I have it on the pattern, but please move it over closer to the middle of your fabric. And then you also don't have to make it quite this long, but I'm doing this for demo purposes. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is change your presser foot. There is a teeny tiny little metal lever that you lift up, and you can slide your presser foot off of what looks like a little cone in the back. And then you're going to place the 3A foot onto your sewing machine. And your presser foot has to be in the raised position for that to happen. And then you can press that metal lever back right here, and it will close and hold your presser foot into place. The next thing you are going to do is adjust your bobbin. What you do is you thread your thread through the little thumb of the bobbin. There is a hole on the bobbin. You put your bobbin in exactly how you have been and hook it in, but that you just thread the edge through that little arm of your bobbin case. That helps control the tightness and keeps it a little bit tighter than we normally sew with. So thread that through, put your bobbin case in, go fishing. You will thread your machine just like normal, and looks like I need to go through the needle for this part. All right, and you will thread your machine like normal. Once you have your sewing machine threaded, you can begin sewing your manual buttonhole. Again, we are sewing a manual buttonhole because we're only sewing one, but your machine does automatic buttonholes to if you were sewing multiple buttonholes, it would set the link, save it, or set the length, save it, and then it would sew that buttonhole over and over once you placed it. So to do a manual buttonhole, you are going to place your fabric in your machine and lower your presser foot. You're going to hold on to your tails, and we are going to sew this blinking left side of the buttonhole first. So we are going to sew up the length of our marking, and you will see it kind of bounce back and forth. And it will look like it's barely moving, and it is, but that is okay. So I'm sewing up the length of my buttonhole. When I get to the end, I'm going to stop and press the reverse button, and I'm going to sew a straight stitch and then stop where my first stitch was. So I'm sewing backwards all the way up to where I first started, sewing my buttonhole, okay? And now you can see that it's gonna do the top here. And so I am going to sew the back bar. Okay, so it's gonna sew across there. And then it is moved now to the right side of the buttonhole, and you will see it going down the right side of your marking. I am holding my tails out of the way because a tip is to have your tails underneath your presser foot so you don't have to hold them out of the way, but I don't want them to get tangled, so that is something you need to do to start. Once you get to the end, you will press the back stitch button, and then it will move over to the bottom, and you will see that the bottom will start blinking. And I am still pressing on the pedal, and it has stopped, which means you are done with your buttonhole. You can lift your presser foot, trim your threads, and then you are going to get your seam ripper, and you're going to rip in between your buttonhole that you sewn. Now this buttonhole is ginormous compared to a normal buttonhole on a shirt, but again, I just wanted to show you that. When you are seam ripping from here to here, please go very, very slow. About as slow as I'm moving with my finger, because there are many times I've made buttonholes and I've had my seam ripper and I go whoop, and I cut all the way up my buttonhole and have to restart, okay?